it's Janine, and today I'm going to show you how I make Deco Mesh wreaths. It really is very simple, and they can get as elaborate or as simple as you want them to be, depending on the materials you use, the ribbons you use, and the other ornamentation that you use. But I'm going to show you how I do it. Today I'm making a Saints themed wreath. As I'm sure if you've watched any of my videos before, you know that we live in Louisiana and we are avid Saints fans, the football team. So today I'm making a Christmas present for my husband. And so it's going to be a Saints themed wreath. So that's why you're going to see all the black and gold and Fleur De Lis accents. And I'm also going to tell you where I get my Deco Mesh products from, because I've searched around a lot and I've gotten a couple of places where I found the prices to be very reasonable for the different products. But my two main sources are MardiGrasOutlet.com, and I will put a link to that below, and polymesh.com, and I'm also going to put a link to that below. But anyway, to get started, of course, I'm going to be using a wire frame, and this is what they refer to as a work wreath, and this is a 16-inch work wreath, and we'll make a 24-inch completed wreath. And it comes with the little tinsel ties already attached to it. And you can get it in different colors to match the wreath that you're doing. So I got this one with the black wire frame and the gold tinsel. And also, and I got that from MardiGrasOutlet.com, and I want to say it was around $5 for the work wreath. And I got these Fleur De Lis. I'm going to be mounting one in the center of the wreath once it's completed, and it is a pick, but I'm going to be cutting the pick part off and then attaching some pipe cleaner to the back with glue in order to be able to attach it in the wreath where I want it to be. And I got those from MardiGrasOutlet.com, and I want to say they were between $3 and $4 for each, and they are either an 8-inch or a 10-inch. I want to say they're 10-inch from point to point. It's 10 inches. And I got this deco tubing from Mardi Gras Outlet, and I'm going to be using this in the wreath too. And I prefer this deco tubing to the one you can get at Hobby Lobby because it's thicker, it's bigger around, and you get a lot more of it for about the same price. And this was $6.95 for this bunch, which, and it goes a long, long way. I can get about 3 to 4 wreaths worth of decoration out of this one bunch of deco tubing. And also from MardiGrasOutlet.com, I got this beautiful black and gold Fleur De Lis wired edge ribbon, and it's 2.5 inch in width, and it is wire edge, so it makes it a little bit easier to form it and get it into pretty shapes like we want for the wreath. Now from polymesh.com, I got the mesh that I'm going to be working with, which is this black kind of plaid pattern with a gold thread in it. And then this gold mesh with a metallic gold thread running through it. And this 2.5 inch, and I'm sorry, these are 21 inches in width this way, and then they're 10 yards long. And I can get, if I use 2 rolls, I can get 2 wreaths out of it. If you're working with one color, you could get 1 wreath out of 1 roll. And then I got this Deco Mesh ribbon, and this is 2.5 inches, and it's 25 yards. And then this gold Deco Mesh ribbon, metallic ribbon, and again, it's 25 yards and 2.5 inches. So that's everything I'm going to be working with today, and I'm going to go ahead and move some of this stuff out of my way and get started. Okay. The first mesh I'm going to work with is the black with the gold thread in it, and I'm going to complete the center of my wreath and then move on to the outer ring. And as you can see, I've placed my wreath form onto an easel. It makes it a little bit easier. I mean, I have worked with them on a flat surface, just, you know, on the tabletop, but I find this makes it a little bit easier to kind of keep an eye on making sure that all of my poofs are of an equal size. And then for filming, it's a lot easier for you guys to see it this way. So I'm going to go ahead and drop this roll to the floor and just bring it up like this. Now the way I do mine and everybody has their own method, but I like to take the outside edges and roll them inside because these edges catch everything. So I just find it a little bit easier to work with the mesh if these raw edges are turned inside. And you just gather it like so. And I like to tuck my tail towards the back of the wreath between the wires. And then just using the tinsel ties, just pull it tight and give it a couple of twists. And again, I'm going to gather those raw edges to the inside. And I guess I'm taking about a 12, well, I guess about 14 inches, and just making a bit of a poof with it and attaching it at the next set of ties. And again, just pull it tight and give it a couple of twists. And then I play with the poofs. Again, just making sure those insides are tucked, the outside edges are tucked towards the inside. I apologize for my noisy easel. I'm going to turn this just a little bit so I can reach the next tie a little better. And again, I'm just going to fluff it out. And this is what you really want to start making sure from the very beginning, to check your poofs and make sure that you're keeping them as even as possible. I mean, it's crafting, and it's not going to be absolutely perfect, but part of the appeal of it is that it's more visually interesting when it kind of takes different shapes and forms. At least that's my opinion. So I'm going to continue to go around, and I'm going to attach at every one of the tinsel ties. Now we are back to the first tie where we started. And so we're going to do the same thing, but rather than just tying this one on top of it, we're going to untwist it and let me get my poof where I want it and I can show you. Looks good. So I'm going to untie the first one. And attach this last one in that same place. And again, just pull it tight and give it a couple of twists. And I'm going to move back to check all my poofs and see if they're fairly equal in size before you cut. Because right now you can still undo everything and redo it if I needed to come back to here and say adjust this poof. Because once we cut it, it's done. So before you cut it, make sure you step back and take a look and see if you like the way everything looks. And I think this looks pretty good. So I'm going to cut off a long enough of a tail here to make sure that I have enough to tuck it behind this poof and run it through to the back between the wires. And now you can't see it. And that's the inside circle. Okay, now we're ready to get started. We are ready to get started with our outside poofs, and for that I'm going to be using this metallic gold. And again, I'm going to start unrolling it a little bit, and I'm just going to go ahead and drop it to the floor. And I know that seems a little bit crazy, but it really is easier to have the roll sort of out of the way. If I had it sitting here on the table, it would just be constantly in the way, and I would end up knocking it over anyway. And the same thing, I start by rolling the outside edges to the inside. Tuck the tail behind the wire and attach it to one of the outside tinsel ties. Give it a couple of twists. And generally on the outside poofs, I make them a little bit bigger than the inside ones. And again, we're just going to do exactly like we did the inside ring. We're just going to go around making a poof, bunching it, and then securing it to one of the tinsel ties. So I'm going to have to turn this towards me a little bit for this side so I can see what I'm doing. And it truly is just easier to keep an eye on things as you're going around, making sure your little poofs are staying as even as possible. It's a lot easier to adjust it right, you know, this one right now, if it was a little too big or a little too small, than to get all the way over here and realize I need to adjust something down here. I apologize for my easel sliding around. It can be a little awkward doing things to make sure that they're in a camera view. But it's so worth it because I love sharing my love of crafting with you guys and showing you some different things that I'm working on. I'm going to keep going around this form until I get all these poofs completed. And this is really the hard work, I guess you could say, of doing this. The rest of it is all embellishing, and that to me is the fun part. So I'm going to finish this, and when I come back, we're going to embellish this wreath and make it really spectacular.